All right, let's look at the reference page, the basics. And this for me is where it gets kind of tricky because there are a lot of differences that you need to take into account. And what I mean by that is you guys are used to MLA format and how to format a reference or a citation for MLA format. And APA is a different beast. And the first way it's different is the way you list the author's names. Like MLA, you want to invert the names, which basically means you want the last name followed by the first name. But instead of the first name spelled out as you would with MLA, you only need the initials of the author with APA. So instead of Swan Devon, it would be Swan DN. So that's how you format authors' names on your reference page. Another striking difference, and this is the one that you guys need to pay attention to because I'll talk about it in a minute. So titles and subtitles on an APA reference page are funky. They're weird. And they're weird because they only capitalize the first word, the first letter of the first word. So if this is a title right here, notice the only letter that I have capitalized is the T in the, right? That is the only word that needs to be capitalized in a title. Also, just to make it even more complicated, if you have a subtitle, right? Here's my main title. This is my subtitle. The first letter of the first word after the subtitle also needs to be capitalized. So anything after the colon, if there is a colon, that first letter needs to be capitalized. Everything else is lowercase except if there are proper nouns in your title, like Purdue or OWL, because it's an acronym. So that's how, and this, like I said, is one of the key distinct differences with APA format versus MLA. And this is something that you need to keep in mind. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times it's easy to go into, especially like with the databases, there is a citation already formatted for you. You can just copy and paste it and put it in your reference page and it's fabulous and wonderful. No, that's not necessarily the case. And I have a video that I'm going to put in with the rest of these videos on formatting a citation. But a lot of times when you have these pre-generated citations, they have all of the information that you need, but they aren't formatted in APA format. So the first thing that you want to look at to make sure it's correct is how the titles are capitalized or not capitalized. And if, say for example, if for example your generated citation looks like this, that's the title, but you need to go in and manually change the title to look like this. So keep that in mind. The other thing in regards to titles, and I'm going to try to explain this as succinctly and as non-confusingly as I can. Journal titles, right? The title of a journal. So for example, this right here is a journal title, where the title of the article found in the journal or the container is funky and only has, the first letter capitalized. Journal titles, you want to like with MLA format, you want to capitalize all of the major words. So every letter of the title of a journal is capitalized. Also to note, journal titles, this is a journal title, it's also italicized, right? Book titles are italicized, journal titles are italicized. Any kind of longer work, an anthology title, etc., is going to be italicized. That's the same with MLA format as well, so that's not a difference. The thing that is different is where MLA format puts quotation marks around titles of shorter works like articles like hashtag shame on you, or this article right here, or short story titles. That is not a convention of APA format. You don't put quotation marks. You don't put quotation marks around a journal title, so it's not going to look like that. So you don't need those for an APA style format. So if you're again looking at those pre-generated citations, you want to make sure that they don't have quotation marks, and you also want to make sure that the journal titles are italicized. Okay, how to make a reference list. And the first thing, and guys, I recognize that APA is a very complex system of citation. And I recognize that even MLA is complicated. So please note that I am not asking you to memorize these citation formulas, so to speak. I am asking you guys to be able to identify the source type. Is it a book? Is it a journal article? Is it a web page? Is it a work from a website? Is it a work from an anthology? Is it a chapter of a book, right? I am asking you to be able to identify that, because once you can identify the type of source, then you can find a sample citation, or you can find the formula for the citation. Whether you look in your little Seagull, if you look at the APA refresher sheet that I'm providing for you guys, which you'll see in Canvas under APA refresher, and I call it refresher for my 112 class, so I'll probably change the title for you guys to be APA cheat sheet. But if you notice, what I have here is the common bibliographic references that are going to be most useful for the types of things that you're going to be citing in this class. For example, a common bibliographic reference for an article through a database, which is what 3 of your sources have to be for your position paper. And here I've given you the formula, and then I've given you an example. A work on a website, I've given you the formula, and I've given you a, a sample. Any other kind of reference, like if you want to cite something other than these, you can look in your little Seagull. You can look at something like Owl Purdue or Purdue Owl. And once you find the formula or the sample citation, you want to mirror that example. And that's why it's so important, rather than just copying and pasting citations from various sources, that you understand how the mechanics, the stylistics, how titles work, how the format or the formula works, because you can simply mirror that example. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to pick up with the other component that I want to talk about in terms of APA style, and that's with in-text citations. So reference page, just to recap, you invert the author's last name, and then you have the author's initials. Titles and subtitles are funky and weird. You only want to capitalize the first letter of the first word, and you want to pay attention to italics of longer works like book titles or journals. Okay, so stay tuned for the last part of this lecture on APA style, which is in-text citations.